Hey kids, welcome to class and to Dragon Week. Today is the first of my 2 Dragon Week videos, and today I'm going to be giving advice that, no doubt, you've heard before on the Dragon Week playlist, and that is, say it with me folks, dragons in D&D can get kinda boring after a while. And unfortunately, I'm not really here to say anything different because it's not a take that I disagree with, even if it is getting pretty cold over the course of this week. Dragons in D&D are awesome, don't get me wrong. I love them as much as the next guy. The green dragon in particular has a design that just, it speaks to me. Look, the point is, dragons in D&D are awesome, but if you've played D&D 5e for as long as it's been out, you've probably seen these archetypes before. If you've run the game, you're probably getting tired of using the same dragons again and again and again, especially since the stat blocks are oh so samey. You know, you change the color, you change the flavor, you change the elements a little bit, and then that's kind of it as far as the opportunities for both combat and storytelling. So today, I'm going to go over some dragons from both mythology and from media. Dragons that present something a bit different. Some of them radically different from the dragons that you know. I'm not saying you need to translate these one-to-one to your game. However, they each give a little idea on how you can spice up your dragons. And then at the very end, I'm going to be defending your stereotypical fire-breathing beastie because I'm going to be honest, I've got a soft spot. So, without further ado, guys, let's get started. Okay, we're starting off with one close to my heart, the Bakunawa from Filipino mythology. This is a massive serpent-like dragon that dwells within the waters of the ocean and rises to devour the moon itself. Much of the mythology connected to the Bakunawa connects it to eclipses, hence the moon-eating thing. But the creature also affects the world in various other ways, in more passive ways. It causes winds and waves. It's said to be a source of awe and fear for the people who look upon it. An amoral creature that doesn't fall into robust categories of good or evil. I love the Bakunawa, and it is a great example of how dragons, these ancient, massive beasts, they affect the environments around them. Like, this is already something that is talked about in the base D&D books. Dragons have area effects, just like many very, very powerful monsters. The world around them literally changes and shifts due to their presence. But I never really acknowledge this. Like, I often think about, your legendary actions, your lair actions, but stuff that affects the world as a whole all around the dragon, I don't usually think of that. I mean, it's in the book, but it's not always top of my priority list, and I'm willing to bet a lot of DMs are the same way. However, these mechanics should not be totally ignored. A green dragon is a creature that radiates a poison mist. It affects the environment around it. Animals will turn up sickly. Trees will be dying all around the lair. I mean, the idea that dragons are so powerful that they affect the world around them without even trying, that is interesting. It can be both for good or for bad. I also recommend leaning into the amoral nature of dragons. I'm not a huge fan of the idea that metallic dragons are the good ones, chromatic dragons are the bad ones. Like, if you want to play a good evil campaign, I'm not going to stop you, but I don't know, more amoral creatures, stuff that falls outside of the realm of good and evil, stuff like the spirits in Avatar: The Last Airbender, those always intrigue me far, far more. Like I said earlier, the Bakunawa is not necessarily evil. Like I said earlier, the Bakunawa is an amoral creature. It does things like eating the moon and causing eclipses. That's frightening, but it's not killing anyone. And its passive effects, like bringing the wind and the waves, are absolutely helpful for many of the island peoples. It's a creature of both awe and terror. And that amoral nature may be really interesting for your players if they have that kind of inclination. So in summary, don't sleep on both the passive effects that a creature can bring, as well as the amoral nature of a beastie that's older than some mortal races. Moving on to one from media. This one's a little self-indulgent, but I'm going to be talking about Riven of 1,000 Voices from Destiny 2. Yeah, I got him. I tricked you into talking about a video game again. Ha, yeah. Anyway, Riven is a fascinating creature. She is an Ahamkara, which is a wish dragon. In Destiny, dragons aren't fire-breathing monsters. They are instead shape-shifting tricksters making Faustian bargains. They're more like genies, and I have always loved this concept. Riven herself has an incredibly frightening and alien design. And just at a baseline there, I want to say, if you want to give your dragon something more unique, like multiple eyes or face plates, or removing the wings and replacing it with teleportation abilities, that's all, in my opinion, perfectly valid. Look, dragons are very, very wide in terms of their depictions across mythology, across the world. If you want to take a more alien approach to your dragons, that is perfectly valid, and Riven is a great baseline for that. I mean, the Destiny community theorized for years about what a Ahamkara would look like, and I'm gonna tell you right now, none of us expected this, and I personally love it. But Riven also represents something that I think is underutilized with dragons besides design, and that's mechanically. Riven is a very magical creature. She casts a lot of spells. Her wish magic is a form of spellcasting. And dragons in D&D lore are absolutely capable of spellcasting. Obviously, the dragon stat blocks that we get as dungeon masters don't really have any spellcasting. Dragons, they breathe their breath weapon, they use their claws and their bites, and, you know, it's kind of it, really, besides a couple of legendary actions. Adding their abilities as spellcasters can make them both way more challenging, but at the same time, way more dynamic. I find that dragon fights can get very samey over time, which is why I'm really glad when DMs add frightening abilities to dragons, like Matt Mercer's addition of Umbrasyl's invisibility in the show. That was terrifying and awesome, and reminded us that these are cunning, intelligent creatures who are more than capable of doing what mortals do, but better. In Destiny, Riven's magic is terrifying. It places a curse on an entire planet, which traps it in a 3-day cycle of torment. I mean, it's scary. And that's why I also think you need to be more creative with the dragon spells. Dragons are not mortals. I mean, I brought it up earlier, but objectively speaking, dragon spellcasting should look different from human magic. When we encountered Riven in Destiny, we had never seen anything like her before, and the magic that she used, it reflected that we had never seen anything like her before. So, in summary, don't be afraid to use more unique designs for your dragon, taking inspiration from aliens or Lovecraftian beasts, and also, don't be afraid to add some spellcasting flair to your draconic monsters. Hey! I wouldn't want this video to drag on, so here's a sponsor. Yeah, never let me cook. This week's videos are sponsored by CZEPEKU. If you guys are fans of the channel, you know about CZEPEKU. They are the best map makers and token makers in the space, bar none. Not only do they have 300 pre-made tokens for you to use, but their tokens have almost infinite customization options, allowing you to create the perfect token for your TTRPG game. But they've got something new for you, the CZEPEKU Complete Fantasy Bundle. No longer do you need to subscribe to a bunch of different services. It's all in one place. 6,000 high-res battle maps, 2,000 hand-drawn scenes, and 300 plus tokens for your NPCs and heroes, all updated every week. Guys, I have been a loyal CZEPEKU customer for years, way before they sponsored me. I haven't regretted a penny spent, and neither will you. That's a promise. If you guys are interested, you can head down into the description down below or to the pinned comment where you can pick up the CZEPEKU Fantasy Bundle. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much to to CZEPEKU for sponsoring today's episode. Without further ado, back to class. Next up, the Long, the Chinese dragon. And this creature is quite famous, known across the world. I'm sure you've seen Chinese dragons before. In fact, I couldn't help but notice that in the 2024 Monster Manual, many of the metallic dragons took some slight cues from Eastern dragon designs. The Chinese dragon in particular, though, has a really interesting place in culture. You see, dragons in a lot of Western media are antithetical to civilization. A lot of red dragons are straight up trying to just burn down cities and towns. Thordak in Legend of Vox Machina very famously unleashed his atomic breath upon Amon to great effect. And all that is awesome. I love a good dragon who will just wreck shop on everything. However, the Long in Chinese mythology, they are not antithetical to civilization. Quite the opposite. They are intrinsic to the dynamics of power and politics. There are many writings and mythology about Chinese dragons descending from the heavens to bestow political knowledge upon travelers. And yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine a lot of dragons doing that. Even metallic dragons often have a much more subtle approach than the Long in Chinese mythology, who are often very direct. It's also not just about dragons' direct involvement. In real life, dragons were a symbol of Chinese power for many royal families across multiple dynasties. Dragons were intrinsically important to culture. There were superstitions around the ways that you draw dragons. Not wanting dragons to be face down because it's bad luck. You want a dragon facing up towards the heavens. Even the amount of scales upon their body had significant spiritual meaning. It might be helpful to incorporate that into your world. I mean, in this world, dragons are actually flying around. How would cultures around the world react to that? Would dragons be worshipped? I mean, obviously, we have the dragon cult that worships Tiamat, but they're a cult. What about religions? What about temples dedicated to just your everyday dragon? Maybe there's a city in your world that was protected or saved long ago by a powerful gold dragon, and now depictions of that beast are treated as sacred across that country. Remove the subtlety and make these dragons a more intrinsic part of culture, because in real life, without any dragons flying around, that already happened. Could you imagine if there were actually dragons roaming around the skies? That effect would be turned up 100%. It's time to talk about an Eastern dragon that's a little bit more recent, and that is my precious three-headed boy, King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah is the iconic nemesis of Gojira himself, and this monster is a brutal example of how dragons can be apocalyptic. Look, often, as adventurers, we're trying to stop things before they get really, really bad, but I mean, come on. Avenging something that's already gotten bad is just as thrilling, and a plot hook that I don't really see used very often. A lot of D&D modules, like a shocking ton of them, are about stopping things before they get to a breaking point. But in the Godzilla movies, King Ghidorah often destroys things and then is stopped. This dude is a walking apocalypse. From the Kaiser Ghidorah of Final Wars to the incredible King of the Titans from the Monsterverse. King Ghidorah rains destruction wherever he goes. He is nigh on unstoppable for the vast majority of his appearances. I mean, obviously, there are times where he gets just absolutely dunked on, but, you know, we're gonna ignore those for the sake of argument. Look, the point is, I want dragons to be apocalyptic every now and then. This especially applies to the dragon gods. I mean, in D&D, we've got our chromatics, we've got our metallics, but above them all, we got the two dragon gods, Bahamut and Tiamat. And Tiamat in particular, free my girl, seriously. She is often just chained down, waiting for her cultists to free her. She gets freed, the party fight her after a bit, and then she's beaten. And like, that's it. let Tiamat wreck the world. I made a whole video about how we should allow creatures like Tiamat to go around and destroy continents, to reduce the world to cinders. A near post-apocalyptic campaign is interesting. I mean, I watch Exandria Unlimited Calamity. Did you watch it? Because those kind of Darkest Hour campaigns where everything truly goes to crap, the party loses, and they're forced to survive and pick up the pieces, that is hard to pull off. But at the same time, it is incredibly unique and incredibly rewarding for both the DM and the players. And dragons could be a force to facilitate that. I mean, these are creatures that can burn down a city in what? Minutes? They can fly over your paltry walls. They ignore the fortifications of castles. Arrows bounce off their skin. Their breath melts through houses. These are creatures that can be a force of apocalypse, so let them. Ghidorah is frightening in his majesty. You know that thing I was talking about earlier with the long, dragons being antithetical to society? Well, Ghidorah isn't burning down a single village or chilling out in a canyon, terrorizing civilians. No. Ghidorah is going around destroying continents with a hurricane surrounding his body. That's the kind of energy I think Dungeon Masters need to put into their dragons more. Have the campaign start out with Tiamat being unleashed and the party being forced to level up and survive, scrounge off the ruins of her destruction. Make it feel like the safe points are few and far between, with only a handful of havens left in this world of destruction. Not every campaign is going to benefit from this kind of thing. For the love of God, I've never run a campaign like this, but the more I say it, the more I really want to, because these sort of Dark Ages campaigns, they're cool, man, and I don't see them enough. Whenever they're done on big actual plays like Critical Role, they get stupid popular, so I'm shocked that more people don't try them, especially with our signature dragons. Okay, so wrapping everything up. We've talked about a lot of really unique draconic beasties here, but at the end of the day, I gotta be honest, guys. My favorite dragons of all time, they're Smog, they're Deathwing, they're Balerion the Black Dread. Dragons who very much fall under the stereotypical fire-breathing lizard with big wings who's super evil. I love this kind of dragon. They're my favorite. I can't lie about that. And while, yes, obviously, I've been DMing for 7 years now, which I know is not much for a lot of you guys, but for me, it's a lot. And at this point, I've gotten not sick of your stereotypical dragon, but I've used them a lot. However, my love for creatures like Smog and Deathwing, they have not faded. I still love these creatures, and I don't think they're boring by any means. Look, you don't need to go all the way and create a super unique alien wish dragon like Riven. You don't. It's just taking small quirks and adding them to the creatures you love, no matter what they are. I've talked about quirks for D&D characters before, how even a little thing like your character loving tarot cards or your character having a sort of tic, those things can make your character stand out. They're not crutches, they shouldn't be relied upon, and when overdone, they can be very annoying, but they also shouldn't be ignored. These kind of quirks can make things stand out. Vagar, for example, from House of the Dragon. Vagar is an incredible dragon, and her unique quirk is just, she's old. She's old and she's fat, and I love her. And her design is still very much intimidating, despite the fact that she's clearly a grandma. Just aging up this dragon, making her act more like a sauropod dinosaur, it made her stand out all the more. She's still a big, winged, fire-breathing lizard. However, just the quirk of making her old, it made her stand out a lot. Deathwing is utterly insane in World of Warcraft, and that insanity shows through in his design. He is covered in armored plates that are literally holding his body together. Look, Deathwing would not be nearly as iconic as he is if he was just a normal looking scaled dragon. Just adding those armored plates, adding that design cue, it made Deathwing iconic. It's also the personalities that you give your dragons. I mean, Vagar, despite the fact that she doesn't talk, absolutely has that grandma personality. Deathwing's larger-than-life apocalyptic monologues are just utterly badass.
I am Deathwing, the destroyer, the end of all things, inevitable, indomitable. I am the cataclysm.
Smaug is about as stereotypical as you get for a dragon. I mean, he is the baseline for the vast majority of dragon depictions, but I mean, in his movies, Benedict Cumberbatch gave him a personality. In the original book, Smaug stands out. The way he talks, his grandiose nature, it makes him memorable. Look, the point of this final section is, you don't need to go all the way. I love Ghidorah, I love Riven, I love the Bakunawa, and I love using creatures like that. But you don't always need that degree of uniqueness to make your dragon stand out. Even a small quirk, a small change, combined with a lot of quality roleplay, it can make an experience that your players will remember forever. I have had plenty of Dragon BBEGs, and they have always been my favorites. And who knows, maybe I'll take my own advice and do that apocalyptic dragon campaign that my players will never forget. But in any case, if you guys enjoyed, then you're definitely going to enjoy our next Dragon Week video, a critical failure episode about the worst D&D module ever released. That does definitely involve dragons. It is not linked in the cards because it hasn't come out yet, but what is linked in the cards is Crispy's Tavern, where you should subscribe so you don't miss it. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to this channel right here, Crispy's Academy, so you don't miss any of this content. And finally, if you want to leave your own tips or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't leave a comment, leave your favorite dragon from either mythology or media. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Farewell. They're small. They're Rhaegar. They're Moth. They're Balerion the Black Thread. They're Vagar. They're Dragon.